Yeah, this boy T Nasty. I got another dope video for y'all. This video about Audit the Audit. Cops arrest blind man for having a cane. Whew. Now, like I said before in my previous videos when I react to Lacklusters or Audit the Audit videos, like I just want to shine a little light. Let people know that cops ain't perfect. Now, there are great cops out there that know the law and don't try to bend it just to, you know what I'm saying, either get a reaction or get an arrest. You know what I'm saying? You got great cops out there, and dog, it's been documented how nasty some cops can be, bro. Like sending innocent people to jail, and I just want to shed some light on it because, you know what I'm saying, times are changing, and we need to know that our cops, we don't need people to be afraid of cops every time they see them. We need to be able to drive down the road and don't have to worry about getting pulled over just because. You know what I'm saying? So, if you want me to keep reacting to videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe and leave us some comments. You know what I'm saying? Give us some feedback. But let's go ahead and get to this reaction.
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This
Shout out to
episode
Audit the
covers
Audit, by the way.
firearms, reasonable
Great
suspicion,
channel.
and resisting, and is brought to us by Jim Hodges.
One of the best on
Be sure to
YouTube.
Check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Kamikoto. 8 Smiths says to take Star Chef.
Made that money.
Columbia County Sheriff's Office stopped 61-year-old visually impaired veteran James Hodges while crossing the street after jury duty in Lake City, Florida. Mr. Hodges was carrying his cane, which he sometimes used to help him navigate while walking, in the back pocket of his jeans. And according to Deputy Godey, she initiated the stop because she believed it was a firearm.
Hi there.
Hey.
What's this in your back pocket?
A firearm.
It's a navigational aid. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I
Damn.
don't have to give that unless
Yes,
I'm
sir. I was
You
investigating.
have reasonable
Do you want me to
articulated
put you in
suspicion.
handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You
Well,
don't
have
have
you
to.
ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir. I'm
Have a
doing my
good day.
job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are. What's your name and date of birth?
It does not matter.
Yes, sir,
That's
it does.
crazy.
Would you like me
Call
to
your
put you in?
supervisor,
He's right
please.
here.
All right.
After
That's-
Mr. Hodges
that's
discloses
crazy.
to Deputy Godey, she informs him that he's still being detained and orders him to provide his name and date of birth. While Florida law allows licensed individuals
Obviously
to
not a
carry
gun.
concealed firearm, Section 790.053 of the Florida statutes says, quote, "It is unlawful for any person to openly carry on or about his or her person any firearm." Because the cane in Mr. Hodges' pocket was mostly visible, if Deputy Godey reasonably believed that it was a firearm, a court would likely determine that she had reasonable suspicion to initially detain Mr. Hodges for a suspected violation of this statute. Still, even setting
And he-
aside for a moment
and
the
he
reasonableness
grabbed
of
it,
her
too.
alleged belief that the cane was a firearm, a court would almost certainly conclude that she
Now, the fact that he pulled it out so aggressively, right? For one, that could have been my black ass because we would have found up and fucking shot the fuck up, right? But the fact that she said it could be a firearm, which I think was like a bogus ass reason for stopping him. I think she had other plans, but she was abusing the power and shit. But like the fact that he and did all this with it, and she had no like, oh my god, put it away, or like no reaction to it. She had no reaction to him pulling it out. Let the man go. That's crazy to fucking try and sit there and detain that dude for that.
she could not continue to detain and attempt to identify Mr. Hodges after discovering he was not carrying a firearm. Under Section 901.151 of the Florida statutes, which is known as the Florida Stop and Frisk Law, quote, "Whenever any law enforcement officer of this state encounters any person under circumstances which reasonably indicate that such person has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a violation of the criminal law,"
I think she wanted to search that dude, and she just used it as a terrible
the
excuse.
officer may temporarily detain such person
Terrible
for the purpose
excuse.
of ascertaining the identity of the person temporarily detained and the circumstances surrounding the person's presence abroad, which led the officer to believe that the person had committed.
I'm not gonna pause so much, but even if they did, like, she gave you that bogus ass reason to stop him, and if he did have like cocaine or any kind of hard drugs or whatever, it would have been an illegal search and seizure because she was wrong about the cane thing. You know what I'm saying?
Was committing or was about to commit a criminal offense.
So either way, it would have got
as
dropped.
The Supreme Court explained in the 1983 case of Florida versus Royer, quote, "The scope of the detention must be carefully tailored to its underlying justification. An investigative detention must be temporary and last no longer than is necessary to effectuate the purpose of the stop."
Ooh, this is what I
Similarly, the
love.
investigative method
Audit,
employed
bro.
should be the least intrusive means reasonably available
Look how you put us
to
on game.
verify or dispel the officer's suspicion in a short period of time. Based on this and other precedent, the First District Court of Appeal of Florida determined in the 2000 case of Eichner versus State that, quote, "It follows from these authorities that investigative detention can be valid only as long as a reasonable and articulable suspicion continues to exist. The suspect must be released if the investigation dispels the concern that initially justified the detention and if the officers have not acquired any other basis to continue the detention." Here, reasonable suspicion only existed as long as Deputy Godey believed that Mr. Hodges might be openly carrying a firearm. As soon as her investigation revealed that Mr. Hodges was carrying a cane and was in no way engaged in criminal activity, he could no longer be constitutionally detained.
But if he was open,
For a walking stick.
So-
And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to
Really?
present it, okay?
Now she's asking me for ID.
Okay.
I don't need the ID unless there's reasonable articulated suspicion
And her
that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime,
And
or
her-
about to do a crime.
Sir, and her suspicion was that you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID.
Well, now
Okay.
she has verified that I am not armed.
Okay.
So there is no
You got
problem.
your ID or not?
I do have my ID, but you don't need it.
Okay. Okay.
that's crazy.
Where's your wallet at, sir? I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your ID?
In my
pocket.
Which pocket?
You are not allowed to search me.
It's in this pocket.
That's crazy. Ooh, get that money. Oh boy is saying nothing. He knows he's gonna get that bag, bro.
I want your names and badge numbers.
Sergeant Randy Harrison assists Deputy Bodie in placing Mr. Hodges in handcuffs and searching his pockets. As the
Bro, and the reason why they do that is because it's a lot of us citizens. See, as you can see, this dude is white, right? It just don't happen to black people, you know what I'm saying? It just don't happen to black people. This is a white dude. He knew the law. He took proper precautions. That way, like, and we as black people don't do that because we don't know the law like that. We need to learn this stuff, bro. Like, they can't do this. They cannot do this, bro. So you see my boy sit up, like, yeah, you can handcuff me. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm finna get this bag from y'all, though.
Supreme Court of Florida held in the 1992 case of
And I
Reynolds
think Lake
versus
City
State,
need that money,
quote,
too.
"Police may properly handcuff a person whom they are temporarily detaining when circumstances reasonably justify the use of such restraint." However, the court clarified that, quote, "We do not suggest that police may routinely handcuff suspects in order to conduct an investigative stop. Whether such action is appropriate depends on whether it is a reasonable response to the demands of the situation." Applying this standard, the court concluded
He was
that
right
the
when he what he said too, bro. They
handcuffing
still
of an
handcuffed him.
individual after a pat-down confirmed he was not armed was illegal because, quote, "The suspects offered no resistance, were not particularly belligerent, and did not make any threats." Still, in the 2016 case of Quasi versus State, the 4th District Court of Appeal of Florida concluded that, although, quote, "Courts have generally upheld the use of handcuffs in the context of a Terry stop where it was reasonably necessary to protect the officer's safety or to thwart a suspect's attempt to flee, in the case at hand, placing the defendant in handcuffs constituted an unlawful stop because, in addition to the fact that the officer had no reasonable suspicion on which to base the detention, quote, "The defendant gave the officer no reason to suspect he would flee and no reason to suspect he was armed or dangerous." Likewise, the Quasi Court found that the officer conducted an unlawful search when patting the defendant down while handcuffed and, quote, "Finding nothing that suggested a weapon, the officer reached into the defendant's pocket and removed his cell phone and cigarette paper." The court determined that this search search was unlawful because, quote, case law consistently holds that an officer must have a reasonable belief that their safety is in danger, and if so, must limit their contact to performing only a pat-down search. And, quote, the officer exceeded the permissible scope of a pat-down even if he had reasonable suspicion, which he did not. In this situation, a court would probably hold that the officers had no reasonable suspicion to continue to detain Mr. Hodges, and that even if they did, the use of handcuffs and the search of Mr. Hodges' pockets were illegal because he showed no indication that he was a flight risk, and he had already proven he was not armed when he demonstrated that he was carrying a cane and not a firearm.
Preferably
Hotel
your cards.
322.
Sir, are you legally blind?
Yes, I am. I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty, which was canceled.
Why aren't you using your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time?
Not all the time.
Green. All right, Mr. Hodges. Was that hard?
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge
You
number.
know what? Put him in jail for resisting.
Okay.
Damn!
All right, let's go.
When Mr. Hodges implies he will be filing a complaint and asks for the officers' names and badge numbers, Sergeant Harrison tells Deputy Bodie to, quote, put him in jail for resisting. Section 843.02 of the Florida statute states that, quote, whoever shall resist,
This is
obstruct,
crazy,
or
bro.
oppose any officer in the lawful execution of any legal duty without offering or doing violence to the person of the officer shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree. In general, courts have concluded that
Now I get why people. Well, I know why some of them back the blue, but I get why some people like back the blue because they got family members that are police officers, and police officers are all there to protect and serve. And I'm sure there was a situation in their life where the police had their back and made life easy for them. You know what I'm saying? So I get why people say back the blue, but dog, you cannot back this, bro. This is crazy. Oh, I think that's a gun, and you can clearly see before he even pulled it out that it wasn't a gun, right? It wasn't a gun. I don't know what happened prior to this video, the reason why she got so aggressive with this dude, but that was nonsense. It was obvious. It's obvious that the dude didn't have a fucking gun, right? It's obviously he didn't have a gun. He actually aggressively split in his pocket. Boom. No reaction to it. So she knew it wasn't a fucking gun because she having a reaction to it. Showed it to him. Like, hey, it's not a gun. Stop should have been over. The reason why you stopped me was the fact that you thought I had a gun. I showed you this wasn't a fucking gun. Stop over. And the fact that he got arrested for resisting when he didn't even fucking resist. Whenever he asked for the ID, he just stood there and got arrested, and they give him this is fucking mind-boggling, bro. I hope he kill him, bro. I hope he get every fucking dime from Lake County. I hope he get everything from the ass. I hope he fucking burn that goddamn city down just because one stupid ass officer, bro. And it sucks too because the taxpayers have to deal with that shit, right? But the reason why I say that, because the people in Lake County need to hold these motherfuckers accountable, bro. Like, hey, you just cost our fucking cities fucking hundreds of thousands. You know what I'm saying? You need to be held accountable. You need to be fired. You need to be like the whole department need to be held accountable, bro. That's crazy that they think they can get away with shit like that.
individuals can be
Last time
convicted under this statute
Promise.
for refusing to comply with a lawful order from an officer. For instance, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals held in the 2008 case of Vadimski versus City of Melbourne that an individual could be arrested for resisting and obstructing an officer's efforts to detain him during a lawful Terry stop by attempting to leave the scene. In the same vein, in the 2007 case of Zivojinovic versus Barner, the 11th Circuit determined that probable cause existed to arrest an individual for resisting when he, quote, disobeyed a command by members of law enforcement as he was escorted off a property he had been asked to leave. However, it is essential to note that both the statute and the relevant case law require that an individual oppose a lawful command in order to be convicted of resisting. In the 2008 case of CHC versus State, the 2nd District Court of Appeal of Florida reversed a delinquency adjudication against a juvenile defendant who fled when an officer ordered him to stop because the state failed to show that the officer was, quote, engaged in the lawful execution of a legal duty. The court reasoned that, quote, although flight in knowing defiance of a law enforcement officer's order to stop can constitute a violation of Section 843.02, the officer must be justified in ordering the detention based on founded suspicion that the defendant was engaged in criminal activity. Because the officer did not have the necessary reasonable suspicion of criminal activity to justify a detention, and, quote, the flight occurred after the unlawful order to stop.
That's some pause, I promise. But this is basically female officer, this dude trying to defend her. He got too aggressive. That's what I think it is. Like, we all human, I get it. He probably seen his little fucking deputy in trouble. He felt like this dude's being belligerent or whatever. And he was just defending her, and he's being extra with it. You can't do that, bro. And he's a sergeant. A sergeant.
The defendant's motion to dismiss the charge.
He should be a sergeant more. That's for damn sure.
Arrest Mr. Hodges until he threatened to file a complaint. According to Deputy Godey's arrest report, quote, James was found to be in violation of Florida Statute 843.02 by obstructing the ongoing investigation when he repeatedly refused to allow identification of the object in his pocket, as well as refusing to identify himself, despite the fact that Mr. Hodges removed the cane from his pocket and clearly displayed it to Deputy Godey when he was under no legal obligation to do so. Given the precedent on the issue, a court would likely determine that Mr. Hodges
because like can't like you
843.02 of the Florida statutes,
you are carrying
could not lawfully detain him or require that he identify himself once it became evident that he was not carrying a firearm, and therefore
but even if you was
lawful execution of a legal
can't
duty.
still do that.
I want your name and badge number 2, sir.
Have a seat.
You want to pick my property up, please?
I sure will, after you have a seat.
Ooh, get that money,
Pull
dog.
this out of my back pocket.
Sure. Here, I'll grab your jacket for you, too.
She be a little smart ass, too. Get that motherfucking money, bro. That is absurd. It's not like kind of Lake City.
Mr. Hodges was charged with resisting without violence
City.
in violation of Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes. However,
I said
the
Lake
charge
County,
was
it's Lake
dropped
City.
on November 7th, 2022 by State Attorney John Durrett, who stated in a court filing that, quote, after having examined all known evidence, it is the determination of the undersigned that said cause does not warrant criminal prosecution against the defendant. On November 3rd, 2022, Mr. Hodges contacted the Columbia County Sheriff's Office about the encounter and requested the body camera footage, and the office initiated an internal investigation into the incident as a result. According to a video statement from Sheriff Mark Hunter, which was released on Facebook, the department determined on November 11th that both officers had violated policy during the interaction. As a result, Sergeant Harrison was immediately demoted, suspended without pay for 7 days, and will not be eligible for any favorable action for 2 years. Deputy Godey was suspended without pay for 2 days, and both officers will be required to undergo remedial civil rights training. In comments on the original video on his YouTube channel, Mr. Hodges seems to indicate that he will be taking legal action against the officers, and a GoFundMe campaign has been created to assist Mr. Hodges with related expenses. I've included the link to the campaign in the description below. Overall, the Columbia County officers get an F for illegally detaining, handcuffing, and searching Mr. Hodges.
He must got a crush on her or something.
Identify himself when
he
he
jump off that fucking bridge like that.
Obligation to do so, and arresting him when he refused to comply with their unlawful orders and threatened to file a complaint against them for their unconstitutional act.
She just looked like she don't know how to fucking police, bro. She looked like she don't know the fucking law. And I think he was just there to protect her.
Actions. Although it is possible that Deputy Godey initially mistook Mr. Hodges' cane for a firearm, throughout the encounter recorded on her body camera, the cane is clearly visible and does not look remotely similar to any firearm, making her claims highly unreasonable at best.
So 2 days is crazy to me, bro.
The crime Mr. Hodges committed was refusing to unquestioningly comply with the officer's unlawful commands, as they continued to detain and handcuff him after he had clearly demonstrated he was not involved in any criminal activity. While I commend Sheriff Hunter for actually taking disciplinary action against the officers involved, I seriously question whether the abusive and authoritarian attitudes these officers demonstrated towards Mr. Hodges can be corrected with additional training. And I hope Sheriff Hunter will take more permanent steps if another issue arises with either of these officers.
I sure will.
A+ for knowing, understanding, and defending his constitutional rights, refusing to comply with the officer's illegal orders and taking appropriate action after this interaction. Throughout the encounter, Mr. Hodges repeatedly communicated to the officers that he did not consent to their actions and that they were violating his rights. And although the officers did not seem to care, Mr. Hodges did not allow their indifference to the Constitution to dissuade him from exercising his rights. I commend Mr. Hodges for having the courage to stand firm in the face of police overreach and to immediately file a complaint and pursue legal action against the officers involved. And I wish him the best as he seeks to defend his rights.
Get that
Let
money.
us know if there's an interaction.
Yes, sir.
Or
that's in the video, bro. Like I said, the link will be in the description. Shout out to Audit for another great video and another great, like, breaking it down and showing us the laws and previous trials and all the other stuff, bro. Shout out to Audit, bro. Like, if y'all don't know about him, bro, go to the channel. Link will be in the description. And subscribe to him. Because every video I react to, every video I watch without reacting to, like, he always give, like, great info. Like, dude, this dude might be a lawyer. I don't know. But it's in the video, y'all. It's in the end of the video. I don't know, man. Tongue tied lately today. But end of the video, it's your boy T Nasty. I'll let your boy, and I'm out.